Bush Light's got a new fish one.
I know. I got the fish.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, you were drinking out of them.
Which one do you have?
I don't
There's
know.
6 different ones.
I have.
A regular Bush Light.
That is a regular Bush Light. My fish. That must have been one left in the fridge.
Yeah.
Hello, America. It's time to check the nonsense at the door, clear the cobwebs between your ears, and have a rational-ish conversation. This is the lost art of common sense. That's right. I'm Josh.
And I'm Kevin.
And this is the lost art of common sense, season 2, episode 3. And we're talking banking because if you should take no advice whatsoever from us, it should definitely be financial. But we're talking about it anyway. Kevin!
Yes.
So you've heard the news lately about failing banks and stuff like that. What are your overall thoughts on the recent bank failures?
Weirdly, not surprised. I think it was something that we kind of knew was going to happen once inflation started to rise, once the interest rates started to rise. I'm not saying I'm a bank expert. I am definitely not, but I mean, it was kind of written on the wall, and everybody just kind of wanted to tiptoe around the fact that this economy is failing. Also, are we going to say the number of the episode after every episode or after every introduction? Because eventually I'm going to forget.
No,
we do a lot.
Well, this is our first episode back in each other's studios. So
talking about banking, I'm saying I can't remember numbers.
I'm just horrible at numbers and remembering.
We got to 5 and I'm done. All right. So
there's just something about the crossover. I can't even do the two hands things.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was gonna. I don't know. I thought there was a chance it wasn't going to happen, but I knew it wasn't going to happen to the big banks because, well, they're going to get bailed out anyways if it did. But regional banks, that's the ones that are going to get hit. The stock traded smaller banks, just because of inflation and interest rates. And I'll explain more on that later.
That sounds like a good idea. I actually, mostly because, I mean, I know that inflation's up and the economy's going to shit and stuff like that. I did not actually realize that there was a bank failure luring or lurking in the background, but it makes sense. All right, so was the failure the fault of the management or the market / inflation / interest rates? Or all
I'd say it's a 70%, 70-30 on 70 being the market, inflation, and interest. 30% of the management for not seeing what was coming.
Well, and didn't they say that Silicon Valley Bank, like each bank's supposed to have like a inspector or something that watches for basically, I have no idea what their actual job is, but I think it has something to do with like
making sure that
making sound financial decisions so you don't screw all your customers.
Well, the problem is when they made those financial dealings, like buying bonds, government bonds, and that's basically what happened. Is it seemed like a good investment at the time because usually bonds are, but when the interest rate hikes and they release new bonds, then the old bonds decrease in value by substantially amounts, especially being we were at 2% and now at 6%. Possibly, and they said they're going to raise again.
Well, because like inflation, I guess the inflation numbers for last month were 8% or something. So they're not.
Yeah, so it's not going down. So they have to raise interest rate to curb inflation. Well, otherwise, it's going to be stagflation here for too long.
Technically, there's two things you can do. One, raising interest rates, which I don't think there's actually a track record of that actually working. And two, the government stops printing all this money that we don't actually have.
Yes, well, I mean,
curb government spending and flooding.
Yes, if they wanted to work on a surplus instead of a constant deficit, that would be fantastic. But let's just pretend we live in reality, and well, reality is they are not going to. they're going to keep adding to our national debt, and this inflation is just going to keep going and going unless they raise interest rates and people start losing money and jobs.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know. I think sometimes you. I heard somebody say something like in these really good times, you have like that's what allows these dumbasses to get into power. Like it's kind of like yeah, they sell this bullshit and people are, we'll say, gullible enough to fall for it. And then like the people that are in power in every branch of or every part of Biden's cabinet wouldn't be there if it wasn't for like where we've gone as a society.
Well, maybe if
Because
they
they're all idiots.
well, maybe if they went more for like actual, knowledge of the position and not equitable, uh, fillers. Like,
Yeah, they're box
I had to have
checkers.
my gay trans black guy and a other trans guy who steals suitcases and an idiot for a vice president. And, this is what
Pretty much
happens.
everyone. I mean,
Yeah,
Janice Yellen,
she's a moron.
yeah, the person who's actually in charge of the financial part is an idiot.
Oh, absolutely. And they keep lying to people, then they backtrack saying they didn't lie, but they just misread it, and people are like, "Oh, well, that happens." Except for they keep misreading these things, and everybody else is telling them, "Hey, this is not going to work. Stop spending money." And they're like, "Well, we'll just throw another 1.3 trillion transportation thing on there, then a fucking 4.1 trillion fucking uh Inflation Reduction Act or something." So, I mean, they're morons, and we get what we fucking pay for. I don't
Well,
know.
you can say we get what
It's
we vote for, but I didn't vote for this bullshit.
no, I know, but half the country's fucking morons. It's not my fault, but I have to live because they're fucking morons. And this is what idiocracy is about: is when you put a bunch of morons in charge, and things just go to shit. The people who are actually smart just they screwed. Then
Well, it
eventually
is like
they get
idiocracy.
bred out. Eventually, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that's exactly what this is like idiocracy, though. Like, granted, we're not
I'd rather
watering
have
up.
Macho Camacho as my president right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, at least he's
So
got vigor.
yeah.
But
Well, he's not a robot.
no,
Meep, burp,
no.
burp.
I'm telling you, like I said earlier today, I'm about 2% sold on the robot
Yeah, me
conspiracy
too.
theory because there's
Watching
something
him
off
walk
with that
off like.
dude. Yeah, it's like you said, like when he finished the speech, I'm like, programming end, must return to charge station.
Yeah, he wouldn't
Yeah,
look. He didn't take one question.
yeah,
But
it's,
he's
I
got
mean,
this financial thing under control. He said, but
yeah,
yet, like
that instills all kinds of
but
confidence.
all kinds of regional banks stocks dropped 40 to 70%.
Yeah, I think some of those rebounded a bit today, but I don't know.
I don't think a bunch because people are pulling out because with the government. Well, we'll get to it. Go to your
Yeah.
next question.
Okay. Does the woke ESG movement have anything to do with it?
I don't know. That's one thing I don't know about. Are banks part of that? Probably, right?
No, it's a huge part of banks are a huge part of that.
Yeah. So yeah,
Actually, the whole
probably.
ESG thing wouldn't work without banks.
Yes, probably because they're making stupid financial decisions with our money into investing in these woke companies that probably aren't, you know, doing well.
Yeah. Well, and that's when you have people running a business or a bank, financial institution, whatever, and they're doing anything to do with ESG, where if you follow ESG anywhere in the world where it's been implemented or whoever has a high ESG score is on the brink of poverty or total economic collapse. It's another like I don't get it. We're being ran by morons, and like people are getting rich. It's like the president of Silicon Valley Bank. He's being investigated for selling off millions of dollars in stock before the bank failed.
Well, probably because he saw it's going to happen. I
Well,
mean,
it's
they're
still
not total
illegal.
morons.
Well, yeah, but it's illegal. You can't do that.
Oh no, you can't do that. But I'm just saying he probably knew there was a chance it was going to happen.
He's a lawbreaker,
Yeah, he's
a
probably going to go.
malcontent.
I don't know. He's in Silicon Valley, so probably nothing happened because he probably donated a bunch of money to the Democrats. So
Oh, that's true. Speaking of that, what are your thoughts on the government's response?
this is why regional banks are closing or are getting hit. What happened was the government basically bailed out the people the depositors of the money in the bank, but they're not helping the investors of the bank. So people who invested in these banks, these regional banks, are now pulling out, and that's why stocks dropped so much because they found out, hey, the government's not going to back the investors if these banks fail, and it's almost going to happen to I bet you at least 3-4 more banks. So it's just like now it's probably going to happen to a bunch more because investors are pulling out of these banks.
Well, let's say that because you bank with a smaller bank, I bank with a smaller bank.
Yeah, we're not like regional stock traded banks,
But what I'm saying is, let's say our banks failed. And I mean, this is not a problem. It's going to be hard for me to get my $20 out.
Yeah.
But let's say that this podcast takes off because people start liking, sharing,
and we make
commenting
millions of
below.
dollars on it. And we make millions.
Yeah, and like, do you think that we're going to get all of our deposits covered?
Yes,
or do you think we're going to get the $250,000? That's all that is actually covered.
That they have to. That's what they have to because that's what the FDIC insures up to. But no, I don't know.
Or do you think that all the depositors in that bank got their money back because most of them? That's like the super rich of Silicon Valley, and mostly are Democrats.
Yes, they had $22 billion in depositors in that bank.
And most of that
$22 billion. Did I say billion or million? Billion. This is billion.
Well, they have, and a lot of them are Democrat donors.
Yes. So I don't know. That's something we'll have to watch. You would hope so. I mean, they kind of set a bar. Said you can't just, if you don't, there's corruption. And you should definitely be investigated for that.
Oh, no, it's not.
I know, corruption. But I mean, it's blatant corruption. It's not like trying to hide corruption. It's blatant corruption.
We might have to do an episode on how many examples of blatant corruption there is because you're still acting like they wouldn't do this. Yeah, they would.
No, I know there's a chance, but you just got to watch.
They're cutting now. Granted, I don't know. Let's see. Well, I think I kind of touch it a little later, so I'll skip over what I was gonna say. But do you think Biden did a good job of making people feel all warm and fuzzy about the country's financial state?
Dude, this guy has been saying we're not in a recession for so long. Banks are collapsing. Inflation's still at 7-8%. The guy from the Fed just said he's going to have to raise interest rates yet again. No, we're not in a good financial state, no matter how you look at it. There is not. I mean, I guess compared to the world, we are better off, but we should be. We're the world's only superpower. If we collapse, the world collapse, and that's basic.
And then economics. We're all speaking Chinese.
Well, you think if we collapse, the Chinese aren't going to collapse? We're still tied in together.
Yeah,
who do you think buys all their shit?
Here's the thing, though. Like, they're counting on it because they're a communist country. They can literally just force their people to do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
And if we're not around to, like, defend against something like that, yeah, China's going to step in. Doesn't matter. They're already on the brink of financial collapse anyway, which way sometime this
Obviously,
year,
we're not
this
far
season,
off.
We're going to have a China episode.
Every time we're about to talk about China, something pops up, like banks collapsing or...
Yeah. I know. And it's not like we're even like a news podcast. Like we talk about politics and what's currently the stuff, but it's like, I'm not really sure why I felt like we had to touch on this.
Because it's a pretty big thing. I mean,
I know.
We got to get ahead of the curve sometimes. So,
and people do want our thoughts on it. I think there's like at least 5 people that really want to know.
That we're their news source. We are.
And I don't even know how people are going to find out about it because you cut me off when I was doing the like, subscribe, and share thing. You just cut me off. You stopped it. You're like, yeah, if we make millions of dollars, we're not going to make millions of dollars, Kevin, if we're not telling people to like, subscribe, share, comment, 5 stars, Oh, that cool stuff.
Yeah, so be cool and
That
give
doesn't
us
rhyme.
5-star. No, I ruined it. Sorry.
I don't
How's
even
this?
know how you do that in a rhyme. I'll think about it. Come up with a jingle.
Yeah, see, you should just Kevin ruins it again.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but when he came out, well, I don't know. It's just when he talks, it doesn't matter what he's talking about. And then if he's and what you can kind of backtrack this and what now when he was running, pretty much all the stuff he said he was going to run on, he has been trying to do. He's trying to ban guns. He went back to that again. Got to ban those AR-15s and assault rifles. Got to do it again. Got to go big. Got to do it right now. We just got to do it. But like, I don't know. There's just nothing about him that's reassuring, and I'm pretty sure he has a Nancy Pelosi problem where his teeth float around his mouth when he talks.
Yeah, he's
I
all
swear
garbly
you can hear like them
clickety
like
clacketing.
flop around his mouth. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's
Yeah, there's just nothing I mean, who trusts a career politician, period. You shouldn't. And because everything comes out of their mouth is a lie. So again, you people who voted for them are fucking morons.
yeah, that's true.
So I mean, it's no, you just don't feel reassured when he says anything. One, because it takes him, you know, an hour to get around one sentence because he keeps losing his train of thought, or he messes up in the middle of it, or the dementia takes over and he's swatting at butterflies. I don't know. It's almost sad to see, but you don't want to see anybody go through that. But here we are. He's our leader.
Well, and like that's the thing though. Like if it's not a robot, and he does have obviously he's got some degenerative mental condition, and like I don't like the guy, I never like the guy. He's got a track record of just being a douche. And speaking of banking, I guess the Republicans held well because they forced McCarthy to do it. There's a third Biden person that they're not releasing the name of that is part of the whole Chinese money thing going to
I think I
old
know.
Hunter.
I think I know.
Who do you think it is?
It's Joe Biden's brother.
Is that who you think it is? I thought he was already in the mix though. They're acting like this is somebody nobody knew about.
Jill. Oh,
Could
I
be
hope it's
Jill.
Jill.
I hope it's Jill too. Doctor, go to jail.
Who's basically,
So
I think she's actually running our country.
I don't think she is.
I think she's part of the cabal who's running our country.
I think she's an idiot. Like she's dumb.
Who else in the party is not?
I don't think anybody.
Give me somebody who's not an idiot that's in his cabinet.
No, I don't think it's anybody in the cabinet. I don't think it's. I think like how they said, who is Brock's Secretary of State? What's her name?
I don't know.
Can't remember. I think she's one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if Obama had something to do with it.
Was Secretary of State fucking Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, that was his first one. It wasn't the last one when he left office. I think they pretty well booted her because she's a loser.
Who's Biden's Secretary of State?
Can't remember his name. Tony Blinken.
Oh, Blinken. That's right.
Why are you blinking, Blinken? You nervous? I don't know. I don't know who it is, but that's why I do want to point out in every podcast that when people, even Republicans and Trump and DeSantis and everyone running for president are going to be like, I'm running because Biden's this and Biden's that and Biden's bad and this is all Biden's fault. It's not Biden. It's the Democrat left agenda that's playing out right now. Biden is not in charge. If you think he's actually running the country, you're a dumbass. Okay? It's not Biden. It's not Jill. I don't think it's anybody in the cabinet. It's the left. They put in a puppet, and the left-wing agenda of the Democrat Party is basically what's running the country right now. So remember, in November, see, that's what we call a rhyme, Kevin.
Very well done.
That when you're voting, if you vote for a Democrat, you're voting for more of this crazy ass shit and the destruction of your kid and grandkids' futures. Just remember that. Just remember that. Just saying.
Remember in November.
Remember in November. So, although the money they're using to back these oppositors isn't technically a taxpayer bailout because it's the FCC Because I guess there's what, like a $300 billion purse that's been saved. It's around there. I think it's 300 billion something. Stockpile money for something like this happens. So it's not technically like a taxpayer bailout, but I think it's paid for by fees from the banks. Well, okay, where do banks make their fees from?
Interest rates.
Yeah, so it's still no company, no bank, no anything, unless you're doing investments, I guess, and stocks shoot up. The money that these institutions have come from people, just like the government, technically, if they're not just printing it
Well,
out of
hold
thin
on.
air.
They can do whatever they want. They just make money.
But like we're still, I would argue that we're still taxpayers are still paying it. Citizens are still paying it. You can't
Oh
tell us
yeah.
this is going to have repercussions because they're going to have to um, build up that $20 billion they're spending.
Yeah. No, it's definitely going to. Somebody's paying for it, and somebody, as in, we're all paying for it. And this is just one bank, which is like $20 billion. So if multiple banks fail, I mean, it doesn't take long to go through $300 billion if multiple banks fail. It's going to be eventually it is going to hit the taxpayers because there's going to have to be bailouts, or there's going to be like four big banks like uh, you know Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and probably like I don't know U.S. Bank or something. But so we can't. That's almost like a monopoly. So I don't know if they can do that. They have to have regional banks, credit unions, stuff like that. So I mean, they're
What do
eventually
you think
they
credit unions are kind of insulated from this though? Because they're like, I would think
they're
small
still
banks.
FDIC backed and insured, aren't they?
Well, yeah, they
Are
all
they
are,
still
but
centralized?
no, like a credit union's its own thing, and like if you're part of a credit union, you're part owner of that bank. Well, it's not a
Yeah,
bank. You're part owner of that credit union. Like I don't think my bank's going anywhere. My bank's the largest privately owned bank in the country
which is great because it's
with
not.
like $5 billion of deposits.
Yeah,
It's a huge private bank. It made it through the depression.
yeah, and probably made it through 2008. So
It did just fine. They're
yeah.
celebrating their like 125th year of business.
Well, I mean, like I don't know. It's these publicly traded banks that are the smaller publicly traded banks that are going to get hit worse.
Well, and that's why I don't
No one's
understand.
going to have
Like,
faith in them.
well, I don't get why anybody. I don't. I banked with Wells Fargo for years. The assholes would never give me a loan. I always got my loans from credit unions or now my personal bank. They give me loans, but like charge you fees out the ass. They'll always run your credits before your deposits. It's like, why the hell? It's like, well, you can use an ATM if you need to get money or blah. I'm like, use your debit card or pay. Oh man, I might have to pay $3 for a transaction fee. But hell, it's harder and harder to pay for cash nowadays anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't get it. Need a deposit? Mobile check deposit doesn't. No, I mean I don't know. I would not bank with a big bank. The only reason why I have one nationwide bank is so we can make deposits up where you're at and down here, and that's it. And even then, I think you could still use mobile app. I guess you couldn't do cash deposits.
No, I do. I usually use my credit union. Then I do have one that are the same bank that our company uses, and that's the only national bank I think. I got rid of Wells Fargo as well.
I think Wells Fargo is garbage. They say Wells Fargo is like one of the ones that's doing good, but I don't know if there's any Wells Fargo branches left open down here except for like the Wells Fargo building downtown.
There's one in Davenport.
Yeah, I think they're garbage. They got caught stealing from their customers, and I don't know.
Oh no, they are a garbage bank.
Do you think we're gonna have another 2008? Think we're on the brink, or do you think it's gonna be worse?
I think it's gonna be worse. Um, 2008 was bad, but we didn't have this kind of inflation. We didn't have the interest rate hikes we're about to see, and it's not just a banking failure; it's a whole system failure we're dealing with now. So it's going to be worse, and it's going to be worse for a while. This isn't something they can just print money and bail out anybody. It's the system that is failing, not just the banks. The banks are a byproduct of the failure. It's just the first domino to fall, I think, and people should brace for a hard time in the future.
You know, it's funny.
Doom and gloom.
Doom and gloom. Funny thing is, though, 2008 was partially the fault of the U.S. government
Well,
for
back in bad
changing.
loans.
Yeah, well, they lowered the requirements to actually try to push banks to give people loans for
No,
houses
for
that they
equity.
obviously couldn't afford.
Equity.
Well, back in the day.
Poor people should have houses too.
Well, I'm not saying they can't, but you also shouldn't buy a house you can't afford. And then apparently, some
Well,
of these
the problem was balloon rates, right? Wasn't it? Because people bought houses for like 10 years and
what
then it
people were
fucking
doing is they were buying a house, and then like 5 or 10 years in, the balloon payment would happen. Like they were only paying interest, and then like the actual mortgage shit, like, oh crap, I can't afford this. Because you see these, well, we're in the market for a $500,000 to $600,000 house, and I'm a balloon animal artist, and my wife weaves baskets underwater.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah. So that's because banks give out shitty loans, and um, unfortunately, it comes to kick them in the ass. So, but yes, I believe this is just the first domino to fall. It's going to happen and happen, and we're going to see some more consequences of our government's failure. And I'm not putting this just on Biden. That last year of Trump, we spent way too much money. We should never have got any kind of payment for.
Well, we never should have shut down the fucking country.
Yeah, so I'm blaming Trump. I'm blaming all governors who shut down their states. This is a system-wide failure,
And all the sheep that allowed it to happen.
Yes. So this is a failure countrywide, and just because, uh, just because, you know, the a few people wanted to have a little bit of power for a little bit of time, the country is now going to fail financially.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know that Biden's having to make some. The Republicans are doing some good job, doing a few good jobs on pinning the Democrats. So they actually have been going on some offense, like the kind of like what Ron DeSantis did with allowing parents more power and knowing what their kids are being taught and stuff. I think they're trying to push that on the federal level, and it's like, how do you argue against that? Like, how is he going to come out and be like, no, parents shouldn't be able to know what their children are being
Well,
taught or
because the
have
experts
input in it?
know. Why would parents know?
Well, and they also did something with
That's
crime,
their thing, though.
and they're drafting bills to where you're going to have to explain your ass off if you don't sign it or don't support it, which is about time.
And what they need to do is stop adding shit to these bills.
Yeah. They should actually make a bill and a law that doesn't allow you to add pork to bills.
Yes, that should absolutely be one.
So that's just my thought. Well, I think that pretty well wraps up the banking thing. Any general discussion or goings-ons you want to talk about before we wrap it up, and trying to keep these back down to 30 minutes because we know attention spans are like.
This one might even be shorter. I don't know, because I don't have anything. I haven't really been paying attention to the news too much. Basically, it's been about this whole banking thing pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other stuff that came out. I know I heard. The funny thing is, I heard it a few times on the Fox News on Sirius Radio, but really can't think of it. I already mentioned the Hunter thing. Oh, apparently, Kamala Harris and Kamala Harris and Indian lady. What's her name?
Oh, Elizabeth Warren
Are in a spat.
for what?
Elizabeth Warren was asked if Harris should run with Biden if he runs again, and she gave pretty much the same answer as everyone does if they ask if Biden should run. And then apparently she's been trying to call her, and Harris won't take her phone calls.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just came out.
that's funny.
Oh no, she's like spent a lot of time and done stuff as a prosecutor, which she didn't do anything.
No.
And like as a senator, didn't do anything. All her questions, like all her witty questions, were written by somebody else. Because if she goes off script, she
She starts
just
cackling like
horrible.
she's cackling like a rabid dog jackal, and she's I don't know. She's really bad at public.
I wonder if
speaking.
somebody like taught people stuff like that. Now remember, if you don't know what to say, just laugh uncomfortably. That
Just
way
cackle.
everyone's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a spat because everybody knows that she's not a good politician. She's a horrible, just shit vice president. And the only reason she has the job is because she was female and part black. That's
Yeah.
it.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
She literally accused Biden of being a rapist when they were running. They're like, hey, I know you called me a rapist, but you want to be my VP?
Well, that's because it was about getting. It was checking out. It was doing check marks for people, not their actual quality of work. Black.
Yeah, why would you pick
black
her,
and a woman?
She's just
click,
horrible.
click.
Horrible.
Oh, I know. Like, I don't even think they talked to her. Like, there's like, that's going to be her. We won't even talk to anybody. We'll just pick the one that people know.
Well, that's what I understand.
Even though she was hated.
Oh yeah, like Democrats couldn't stand her.
Yeah,
it's because she's a horrible person. Like she is so bad that all of her, what do they call that, diversity, whatever stuff. She checked. She was female. She was. I don't know. I guess she lied about a bunch of shit. Apparently, she did have a pretty decent upbringing.
Of course she did. She lies about everything. Like, there's like, I don't know. She's always like, when I was a little girl and I came home and I was like, Mom, why are financial banks closing down? And, what are the interest rates of the subprime mortgage? She always goes like way beyond like what a child would say. Like,
it's because she's that much smarter than all of us, which is why the border is completely under control.
She is our border czar. So.
Oh, wait, that was another thing that happened. A huge illegal crossing attempt at one of our actual ports of entry, and they actually shut them down.
Congrats. Did
you hear about that?
Them. No.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking hundreds of illegals tried bum rushing one of the ports of entry, and they had razor wire, concrete. The Mexican military got in on it, and they were pushed back. They're wearing like I love Biden shirts and shit.
Were they really?
Yeah.
That's
fantastic. I think the cartel set that up because they have an app and it tells you where to go to get in. And I think the cartel send that up so as they're overloading this port of entry, that's when they're shipping fentanyl and shit and criminals over in
and somewhere else. Yeah, for sure.
Misdirection.
Like misdirection. Abracadabra, Holmes.
So I think that's what happened. That's the first thing that popped into my head. I'm like, oh, obviously they're running drugs over somewhere else.
They definitely are.
It's like, oh, we're doing such a good job by stopping them, except for we just probably left through, like, I don't know,
how
10
much
tons of fentanyl.
Yeah, enough fentanyl to kill everybody in the country.
Yeah, well, I think that amount's already here on the streets. Good thing I don't do drugs or take prescriptions. Apparently, though, they are finding fentanyl, and I don't think it's like U.S. pharmacies. Like, say you go to Walgreens and you get a generic, you're going to find it. I think it's if you order from a pharmacy from a third world country, there's fentanyl in the drugs that are actually in a prescription that you get from a pharmacy. Like hidden in there. It's actually gotten into the product stream. It's not like if you buy from a U.S. pharmacist from a U.S. made medication, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're getting it, like trying to get it cheaper through a pharmacy in Mexico or Canada or something, apparently it's leached in.
Well, so probably because they don't have the quality control of drug makers here in America.
That is true.
I'm guessing the Mexican drug making companies are not nearly as inspectoral as the U.S. drug making companies.
Well, yeah, and they do go out of their way to try to, do stuff. It's just like it's a problem that you just gotta. I mean, if you got kids in college or whatever, like you don't take. I mean, granted, they've been telling that since we were kids and probably before that. Hey, man, don't do drugs. Dopes do dope.
Dare.
Yeah, dare to keep kids off drugs. But it's like they're like, we're gonna wipe you out by lacing all the weed or whatever fentanyl. It's like, or we could just not do drugs. I mean, if the stuff's laced in poison, I don't give a shit what anybody wants to do on their own time, but as long as it doesn't affect me. That's why I think libertarians who are like, all drugs should be legal. You're an idiot, because someone who's jacked up on meth or heroin or whatever, that's eventually going to affect somebody else.
Yeah. It's not a libertarian decision. It affects other people.
It's like, you think that'll be a Mecca? Look at San Francisco, because that's basically exactly what that is.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I just think
drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was an intentional thing, and I think that's what happened, and it's really dumb. Really dumb.
Agreed.
All right, well, I think that wraps up this episode. So I guess until next time, I'm Josh.
And I'm Kevin.
And this was the Lost Art of Common Sense. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Common sense! Common sense! Common sense! Common sense! Common sense!
And we're out.